A sigh escapes you as you open the doors and a smell like honey and flowers creeps up your nostrils. On low beds, men sprawl amidst cushions, smiling serenely through the haze. A young woman hands you a tray with dim sum, tea and a pipe, your usual. With the first hit of opium, the edges of your world soften and your guilt evaporates in a warm, weightless cloud. Just today, foreign merchants bribed you, smuggling in the very stuff now curling through your lungs. We're in China around 1839, and this year 40,000 chests of opium will flow through the port of Guangzhou, making the dealers fabulously rich. And you are a willing accomplice to the world's biggest narco kingpin, the British Empire. But how did Queen Victoria become the head of a drug cartel? All the tea in China. It started innocently. By the late 18th century, the British got hopelessly hooked on tea. Within a century, demand for energizing leaf water exploded by 10,000%, with tea taxes funding 10% of the entire treasury. The problem is, the world's only tea dealer at the time is China, which sees itself as the center of civilization and doesn't care for equal partnerships. Their negotiation partner couldn't be more irritated. It's the British East India Company, a huge joint stock company with a state-backed monopoly on trade in the Indian Ocean and a private army twice as big as the British Empire's. For now, they are the ones being squeezed. The Chinese demand silver for tea and don't buy anything themselves, a losing deal that drains the Crown's silver reserves. So, in 1793, London sends ambassadors, hoping fancy words and gifts can nudge Beijing into buying British goods. But the Qianlong Emperor tells them to get lost. Our celestial empire possesses all things in prolific abundance. There is no need to import the manufactures of outside barbarians. Desperately, British officials look for something, anything, they can sell to China, and they identify opium. Hey, hope you're enjoying this story. We get to tell it to you thanks to Displate, who sponsored this episode. We're passionate about great art. Displate is the perfect partner for us that shares this dedication and brings it to your home. Their premium posters made from durable, lightweight steel let you showcase your personality and what gets you excited. Displate's collection contains more than 2 million motifs, both from beloved story universes like Star Wars or One Piece and independent artists. Or you can design your own custom Displate. We also share the aim of premium quality production and consistent design. You can choose between 3 unified sizes, so all posters look great together, as well as select a matte, glossy or texture finish with 3D features, all of them sleek and durable. Displate is the perfect gift for any loved one, no matter their interests, or you can treat yourself. Once you've made your choice, enjoy their fast delivery and easy mounting system. Your Displate comes with tool-free magnet hanging that you can assemble in minutes. Click the link in the description and use the code Nightshift for a discount. If you find it impossible to choose just one, you can save even more. Get 26% off for one Displate, 31% off for 2, and 36% for 3 or more Displates. With Displate, you can show the world what you love, and every order supports us in doing what we love. And now, back to our story. Poppy economics. If you slice a poppy seed pod, it bleeds a milky goop packed with morphine and codeine, raw opium. For millennia, it's widespread in Europe, the Middle East and Asia as a painkiller. But in the 17th century in southern Chinese ports, people find that it hits different when smoked. It becomes a social event for wealthy merchants and a pricey trading good. Conveniently for the East India Company, when they seize control of Bengal in India, they stumble upon a local opium business just waiting to be scaled. In the late 1700s, they start forcing farmers to swap food crops for poppy, fueling famines that kill millions. Like any good cartel, they then launder the business and sell the opium to private merchants in Calcutta who smuggle it into China. Trade runs like butter, and Chinese silver starts running into British money chests so fast that it becomes the empire's financial backbone within a few decades. And in 1833, the floodgates open. The British government ends the East India Company's China monopoly. Ambitious British merchants turn into reckless narco-lords with armed smuggling boats who push the drug into a mass-market habit. More and more people get high, and many get addicted, although Chinese officials might have overstated numbers to throw shade on this foreign drug. Contrary to later myths, most users may have used it like many Europeans use wine or beer, socially and in moderation. To the Chinese government, it's less a public health than an economic crisis. They're bleeding more silver out through opium and other imports than tea and the like bring in. As recession grips the empire, officials use opium as a scapegoat for fading morals and fortitude and decide to crush the trade. And the stage for this showdown is Guangzhou, the heart of the drug hustle, known to Europeans as Canton. The Untouchable. It's spring 1839 in the buzzing port city, and you're on your way to get high with your merchant pals again. You're sweating as you stroll through the narrow streets that smell of incense, tea, and frying food. But as you reach the den, the doors have been smashed to splinters. Soldiers are dragging the owner away, while others haul out armfuls of confiscated pipes. As a middleman who's been pocketing mountains of British silver, you feel the noose tightening around your neck. The man responsible rolled into town only a week ago, Lin Zexu, the emperor's hand-picked fixer for the opium crisis, an elite scholar known as clear as the heavens for being incorruptible in a system drowning in bribes. From the outside, China's huge army, population and century-old dynasty look like a massive porcelain vase, pristine and imposing. But it's just as delicate if hit hard. A population boom has outpaced food supply and bureaucracy, the economy is in freefall, and rebellions are simmering. But to Lin, China remains civilization's eternal center, self-sufficient and morally superior. And in that view, a merchant like you getting rich off bribes from barbarians is the absolute worst. You see Lin's decree pinned to every wall. Ditch the habit in about a year, or prepare for the executioner. And you hear whispers of what Lin said when the biggest Chinese opium trader, one of the richest men in the world, tried to bribe him with a fortune. The great minister does not want your money. I want your head. And Lin isn't stopping here. He turns to the source of the opium flood, the foreign traders. They live on a narrow strip outside Guangzhou's walls known as the factories, a mix of offices, warehouses and living quarters they leased from China, and the only place in the empire where foreigners can legally live and trade, designed to keep them under control. The British operation is overseen by Superintendent Charles Elliot, a dutiful servant to the crown. He personally finds the opium smuggling a bit distasteful, but gets its economic necessity and lacks the legal authority to stop it anyway. Lin sends them an ultimatum: surrender all your opium and pledge never to trade it again, or else. His soldiers brick up the doors, march through the streets, and cut off food supplies. This escalated quickly, and with messages between China and London taking months, Elliot panics and makes a fateful decision. He orders the traders to hand over all 20,283 opium chests, promising that the crown will pay them back. They can hardly believe their luck. In one stroke, their entire stock is sold. She might not know it yet, but this makes Queen Victoria the biggest drug lord on the planet. Elliot doesn't realize the world-altering debt he just created for her. The opium is worth 4% of the entire British state budget. Today, that share would be about £55 billion, close to the UK's defence budget. Lin, meanwhile, is riding high. He alone stopped the crisis and seized the opium. Chest after chest is hauled to huge trenches by the river, dumped into brine mixed with lime, and flushed out to the sea. The bill, please. By August 1839, the news reaches London and buries the foreign minister's desk under a mountain of letters from merchants, all asking for the Queen to pay their IOUs. The most powerful merchants launch a lobbying campaign arguing that China's market is a goldmine locked behind an annoying bureaucracy just waiting for liberation. In October, the cabinet decides to send warships to force the Chinese to pay, seize ports and crack the country open like an oyster for British commerce. This causes a moral backlash across Britain, but the fleet is already off to declare war on 1/3 of the world's population. Steel ships meet sabers. In June 1840, fishing boats off Hong Kong start spotting strange shapes on the horizon that slowly grow into 22 warships and dozens of transports carrying about 4,000 British and Indian troops. Lin Zexu isn't impressed. He's dismissed reports of an incoming fleet and tells the emperor it's just a bunch of smugglers. Charles Elliot knows better. Forced out of Guangzhou months ago, he's been fighting desperate naval skirmishes for food and water along the coast, hoping for reinforcement. He teams up with the admiral, leaves a detachment to blockade Guangzhou, and sails the main force north. In July, they reach the archipelago of Jushan and start bombarding the main island. Its army falls in just 9 minutes, and nearly 1 million people flee in a panic, while the disgraced local governor drowns himself in a small pool. While China has an army of 800,000, it's scattered across an empire larger than Europe, and the technology gap is huge. For centuries, the Qing had prioritized internal stability while the world outside raced through industrial revolution. So now they're still fighting with their great-great-grandfather's weapons, cannons from the 1500s, rusty old flintlocks, and, literally, bows and spears. Still, the real mismatch is at sea. Britain is a global naval superpower, while the weak Qing navy has been neglected and years earlier had even struggled to crush local pirates like the armada of pirate queen Zheng Yisao. By August, the British fleet is dangerously close to Beijing. Terrified, the Daguang Emperor fires Lin Zexu, blaming him for the crisis, and opens negotiations with Elliot. But after months of back and forth, Elliot's patience snaps. The British deploy the world's first steam-powered iron warship, the Nemesis. Like a tank at a cavalry battle, it vaporizes 11 war junks in 90 minutes. The horrified Chinese diplomat agrees to hand over Hong Kong and a lot of money on top to make it stop. But neither side is happy with this result. The Chinese negotiator is sentenced to death and Elliot fired for not demanding more. In August 1841, a new commander arrives with reinforcements. They go north again, dismantling the coastal defenses. On July 21, 1842, in brutal heat, thousands of British troops step off their ships and, after a short, vicious fight, they break in and enter the city of Zhenjiang and walk into a nightmare. People are cutting each other's throats or drowning themselves in garden pools to escape the barbarians. The war machine pushes on for Nanjing and aims their cannons at the heart of the ancient capital. On August 29, 1842, Chinese officials board a British warship to sign the Treaty of Nanjing. China is forced to pay $6 million silver dollars for the destroyed opium and another $15 million for ransoms, debts, and to repair and refuel the very ships that just slaughtered their people. In total, it's a fiscal shock worth about half of China's annual income. Hong Kong is made a permanent colony and 5 ports are forced open, dismantling China's control of foreign trade. Absurdly, opium is not discussed at all and stays technically illegal because the British Crown wants to avoid looking like a Victorian Pablo Escobar. But actions speak louder than words. The Century of Humiliation. After Nanjing, opium flooded China like a tsunami, while Western merchants got their tea and profits. In 1856, tensions boiled over into the Second Opium War, ending with more unequal treaties that stripped China's control over trade, law, and land even further. Opium was legalized, and smoking spread more than ever. But this is not the story of a bully and a helpless victim. The Qing were rulers of a massive, expansionist empire themselves that took much of Asia by force, including Tibet, Xinjiang, and Taiwan. The Opium Wars were more like two of the most powerful empires on Earth facing off, for which ordinary people paid the price. In 1912, the Qing Empire shattered, ending 2,000 years of dynastic rule and sparking decades of civil war that only concluded with Mao taking power in 1949. By then, both China and the West had their own versions of the story. In the West, opium was recast as an oriental drug that was consumed in seedy places by dangerous criminals. In China, opium became the foreign poison destroying the nation. The Communist Party turned this memory into the opening chapter of the Century of Humiliation, fueling nationalism and presenting its own rise as the answer to that suffering. Stories that still impact global politics today.